Hi, I'm a visionary artist writer. So I'm given a demo of how art can be a template for envisioning a simulation for a paranormal or spiritual experience. We often have doubts about if such phenomena exist. Are they hallucinations, or are they, or if there is indeed some realm hidden from our 3D senses? But I believe art and writing and other deep intellectual processes can prepare us to envision or contemplate such huge ideas. So, for instance, I theorize, and others have theorized, like John Keel with his Mothman writings, that some sightings may be manifestations of a super spectrum or of an environmental spectrum, which is somehow recording all experiences, a kind of collective unconsciousness, which is oracle-like, which contains all probabilities. So I'll explain as I'm drawing. So I think reality at its deepest level is just information in fluctuation, which is what my drawing hand replicates. There's a graph, unlike a computer graph, which maps out the a space, no matter how expansive or relative. So squares, but loose squares. But you could constantly get looser, and this is also meditative in a sense. So you're simultaneously creating the mandala or oracle, which relaxes you. And the deeper you get, the more tones and the more you see, and the more spaces you perceive, and therefore the more connections and the more forms, ranging from mechanical to anatomical. So, okay, already I step back and I'm seeing, I go in different tones too to make points, and I'm referring to basic structures, foundational systems like mathematics, geometries, anatomical forms. So here I see, for instance, right, I see a beach scene. I'm highlighting it. Pardon me. I'm highlighting it. Now I create like a square, basic square. Now you see a scene starting to reveal itself. And here, this line, which was pre-existent, can now be either a building. Depends on your, I rather have it reveal itself. So I think it wants to be some kind of structure. Could be any structure. Again, the story, the narrative will also reveal itself why I'm drawing this. So we know there's a scene, there's a building, and then possibly this is an observer. Maybe this is me, my alter ego, some kindred in another dimension. Again, this is theoretical, which you can do in visionary art. So, bold lines, okay? So that's part one, phase one. Phase two, we shall make the forms clear. Now that I see the figure, take a marker and refer to the squares, the dimensional spaces, the grids, which are very loosely done, so I'm not kind of trapped. Which I think, and as I do this, I get ideas for like which possibly applicable to evolutionary concepts, or could be translated into things like arrested developments on all levels, ranging from the environmental to the quantum to the biological, why there's entanglements of various kinds, how it affects our gene pools. So here I believe this figure at its highest form wants to be healthy and dynamic, and it's he's an accumulation, he's the zenith of all evolutionary data. Again, this is still very loose. It would take me a few hours to really develop it, and I'll show you pictures afterwards of my more developed works. But I just want to give you my basic process. All right, so we see a figure, and this is the building he's standing in front of. I just follow the line like a ruler, which is kind of self-correcting. I just, yeah. Meditative in its sense. You draw bold lines, small accordingly. Then I might adjust and wink my eyes. So I created an artificial grid with my fingers. So unlike a movie camera. Now I look back and I attach it to the landscape. And I realize this landscape can be translated into squares, circles, basic shapes. But then I converge them and they become some kind of mass. And then you're able to like create some kind of geochemistry or what, and you realize that geometry takes on terrain and texture, and which alludes to many things like botany and structures which correspond to environment. Okay, so highlight it, you should start to see. Okay, highlight it. You can never exaggerate enough either. That's the thing, you can't be too tight. You realize this figure can be even more dimensional. So, I'll be quiet for a moment and to get these other perceptual points. So you're starting to see that hopefully you see there's a figure in a scene and it's dynamic. Okay. Now I'll show you some complete. So this is a complete piece using my techniques, and you see this figure is very multi-dimensional, has many lines. Hopefully, even though there's a lot of information and I'm bordering many styles like abstract, illustrative, imaginative, but yet also it's bordering other probabilities beyond the logical, which it's part of my narrative. I call it trans-rationalism. Not quite irrational or rational, but something in between. So that's one piece, and these are other pieces where I just get into these unconscious states and they kind of, they present themselves. So it's like having more consent over your altered states or your so-called hallucinations. People often say like either you hallucinate an experience or you see something there or you need to prove it, but I think that's the wrong question. I think why hallucinate or conceive certain thoughts as opposed to not at all? So there must be something there. It could be a future sense which we could develop with visionary art, which can be applicable to our present cognitive technologies and computing, whatever. So, and I taken this calculating yet fluid, non-filtering approach. I create a lot of concepts, unexpected concepts, alluding to mathematics, whether my interpretation. So this is called equations for manifesting an interdimensional ship. So I create these symbolic equations and then it becomes a ship based on my symmetries. This is a more typical kind of figure drawing, but yeah, literally I think the mind has great potential to just draw beyond categorization. This figure, very dynamic. You don't even have, I find that you don't have to measure perspective and depth and all that, because once you're working with all these lines and just step back continually and relax and look at it as your own natural organic forms as some kind of personalized mandala, you get all these unexpected dynamics. There goes a vehicle. I would have never thought I could draw a vehicle. So, yeah.